And celebrity interviews live from the grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing, Neil. How are you?
I'm excited. And our guest today's Bryce Lee from Netflix The Trust. Bryce, thanks for stopping by. And, it's always great to connect with another entrepreneur.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited to actually sit down and have a conversation with you. This is like thrilling.
All right. Well, fantastic, Greg. Go ahead with your first question.
Yeah, great. Hey, Bryce, great to meet you. So from what I understand, you became a millionaire at around age 20 in the real estate market, which is super competitive, right? So if you can share, for us, why real estate and what were some of the biggest risks that you took along the way and what motivated you to take those risks?
Yeah, so my mom started a real estate company 25 years ago. So I was 14 years old and kind of in this new world of, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I've always been this very driven person of always looking at the bigger picture and thinking, okay, what is my next step? So I was kind of entering into that high school phase of, okay, what are my next steps? Really breaking down what that really looks like. And that's what I fully joined on as taking on all the marketing responsibilities. So redefining what real estate has done in our market. So I'm based about an hour south of Seattle. Have you been up here to Washington before?
Oh, yeah. In fact, my daughter, her family, they live in Olympia.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So I'm like Seattle, Olympia, I'm right in the middle, right in that
Cool.
Pierce County kind of niche market there. So it's kind of like the wild, wild west out here. We completely redefined what marketing looks like and positioning how properties are brought onto the market. So we're staging the homes, we're reinventing and kind of generating new ideas for the space. And what we found is that there was homes that were not being photographed, not presented the right way. So we completely took on that responsibility, kind of drove it into a different direction of what our local and hyper local market was really doing with these properties. Um, Introducing video that hasn't been, widely as it is now used in real estate. So when we're introducing these new products and bringing in, 3D Matterport tours where global buyers can, basically tour properties virtually, it was a game changer. So kind of going into that phase of, okay, I'm 14 years old, I'm hosting these open houses. I'm an unlicensed assistant at this point, so I'm not talking numbers, right? Not talking the business details, but really learning the language. I figured, there's not a lot of support for these young professionals right now, and there's really not a lot of support for young professionals in this market. So I was joining on with my young professionals team with John L. Scott, which is my brokerage, and encouraging new brokers to come in, come sit open houses, come be involved in this kind of community that we are creating. So when I was doing all of that kind of legwork of building up, okay, well, what is marketing? What is video marketing? How do we introduce these topics that have never been discussed before? Um, we're going into the pandemic now at this point where, I graduated high school. I was doing the Running Start program, so I was graduating with my associate's degree by the time I was graduating with my high school diploma. Um, so I was very driven and motivated that business was the direction that I was going to be in. Ended up going to University of Washington, Seattle, had a focus in business and marketing, sales, and drama performance. That was my end all be all, saying this is how I'm going to make my mark in my community and in my area. So after doing all of this legwork of bringing in a kind of a new perspective to real estate, um, we had a client that bought and sold a property for $3.5 million in 2018. And a year and a half later, the market, how we're introducing these new topics, we're presenting the property in a different way. The client sold for $6.25 million. This is a record sale in Pierce County. So
Awesome.
having that kind of under my belt, it was like, you know, that imposter syndrome of, am I too young? Do people look at me and say, oh, this kid doesn't know anything? Or can I actually lean into my experience and can I lean into my true conversations? And what can I do with that? And that's how I was kind of introduced to Netflix too. They saw this kind of young entrepreneur who was changing the game and they called me up and they said, is this something you're interested in? And that's how it all started.
Well, we'll bounce back to the Netflix thing soon. But my question for you is specifically enough. What, like, basically gives you that confidence to go out and sell real estate? Do you have a like a method to the success?
Absolutely. Great question. Because every house is different. And that's what I love about this business is that I can walk into any appointment and whether it's a different client or if it's a different house, it's all going to be a different story. Like my job is to really bring in that like lifestyle piece to a property and show like, hey, this is what can be. If you're looking at a blank room, you might not know what to do with this like back hole, but it could be a great bar or it could be a great game area or whatever it may be. We're kind of creating those new spaces. So, to get back to your question of, how are we um, moving in a direction that is also profitable, but also thinking of, well, how can we actually support our community? When we're thinking community first, there's really no way that you can, well, what's the right word I'm looking for? When you're thinking community first, there's really there's only a benefit. Everyone's going to gain something. It's a resource, and that's my main purpose.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sounds like it. Go ahead, Greg.
That's fantastic. So we won't talk about the show yet, or you want to talk about the show, Neil?
Well, I just see if you have any other questions for him before we go to the show.
We could definitely do that. I just have a curious question. What's the highest value house you've ever sold?
Oh dear, highest value is the big question. So, I mean, that's the record sale, 6.25 million in Pierce County.
Okay.
And that, I mean, it's an 11,000 square foot estate. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, over 300 feet of waterfront. Lake Tapps is a hidden gem. So when you're thinking of, Seattle or Bellevue market, that's King County, that's all north. So
Yeah.
really submitting ourselves down here in Pierce County and even going to Thurston, like you said, in Olympia. I mean, we're really not given that same opportunity as you are maybe on the north end.
Right. Could you see Mount Rainier from that property?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Yeah, nice. That's a beautiful view.
It is. It is. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about Washington is everywhere you go, you can see Mount Rainier. I mean, it's all about the lifestyle. Pacific Northwest is hiking, it's fishing, it's getting out and enjoying the wilderness. I mean, there's no
Right.
better place than the PNW.
So do you think that you got discovered social media wise as one of your big assets when it comes to real estate and especially getting discovered by Netflix?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, social media is the forefront of all of real estate right now. Video marketing has been introduced in the last probably 5 to 10 years in this real estate kind of industry. Sure, there's people that have done this before and have really kind of leaned into this opportunity, but more recently, we've really seen social media take off. And you are seeing so many people getting clients this way, but you have to be able to interact. You have to be able to connect with that clientele, with that audience. And whether you are selling, a manufactured home or vacant land per se, versus an 11,000 square foot luxury estate, you have to be able to dynamically reach those people that they're able to use the resources that you're providing, be able to interact with the property, get those questions answered, and we're in a time right now where, there's a lot of mystery about what a buyer broker does, or, who should I be hiring representation in this changing market? And I have seen almost a 10-year cycle of what we have seen in the last decade of real estate market trends. And we are going through this kind of shift. But luckily, we have some really great agents in our space that are kind of holding ground and having these hard conversations. And that's what's most important. So, in being discovered, you're right. My background in my academics are in drama performance. So, having profiles out there, my name out there, it must have come across some casting director's desk in some capacity. But I do remember getting a call like early October. No, I want to say it was like early November. I know snow was on the ground, right? And they said, hey, we have this new project that's similar to Big Brother, kind of like the real world, where, we just want to see an entrepreneur in this space. We want to see someone who's built a company and kind of get their perspective on things. And who knows what could come of it. It was kind of just like if you're interested, let's take this journey.
Very cool. So let's talk about the trust. So tell us a little bit about the show, and if you're able to share the uniqueness that you had in the show, concealing something maybe that other people didn't know, and when you revealed that, what happened, and if you're able to.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So completely brand new concept to reality television. I'm a huge reality television fan. Like Big Brother, every season, hands down, that is my game. So kind of being brought into this world, I was thinking, okay, well, if it is Big Brother, what's my strategy behind this? Am I going to be going in and kind of using my teeth and using my elbows and just getting to the finish line? Is that my final goal? Um, and then what's so interesting is they kept so many secrets from us. Like they revealed secrets about us, right, later in the show, but the whole process was a complete secret. We didn't know where we were going. We weren't knowing where we were filming. We didn't know how long we were going to be there. It was kind of like a very faith, just jump in, feet first, and let's see where you land. So about like 3 days before we started like filming, I found out where I was even going. So found out that I was going to the Dominican Republic and jumped on a plane, showed up there. They do their kind of quarantine situation where they take your phone away and kind of separate you from true reality. And um, you're just kind of in your own thoughts because then once you're in that space, when you're with the people, all you want to do is talk because I'm just like, I'm very flamboyant. I'm in it. I am very personable. So I feed off people, right? I am very much like an empath that way where I just want to get to know someone, right? And just listen to their story and get to know, like, that's maybe from my sales background, but truly I'm a genuine heart and soul. Like, I care about you when I'm in the same room with you. So it was so interesting because we walk out on this cliff and it's 11 strangers, right? 11 strangers come to this beautiful villa, and then right off the cliff's edge, like oceanside, and you're told that you're all winners. You all win your equal share of $250,000, which is a lot of money, but split evenly between 11 contestants. You already know there's going to be some people throwing some shade. There's going to be people trying to cut people out of the trust. Essentially, if you cut one person, their share of the trust is split among the rest of the remaining contestants. So it was so interesting. The amazing host, Brooke Baldwin, was so lovely. I mean, she broke it down for all of us, but we all learned right there on the exact same moment. And you see it in that first episode, the emotions that are around, sharing and what is trust and who has a different background of how they trust people. But how do you actually trust people with your own money? Like that was a completely different perspective to a reality TV show that I've ever seen. So I'm so happy to be part of something brand new, but that was one of a kind, and what an experience.
And it's very interesting when you talk about this because it talks about greed. It talks about working against everybody. We can't give away what happened to you and all that stuff. You got to tune into Netflix, The Trust. What do you think you learned most from the experience without giving anything away? Like more of like working with the other contestants, what you went through, how you learn from other people that have some of the skill sets you have in this process.
Great question. I mean, honestly, when you're thinking of you're with 11 strangers from all different walks of life. But as you start connecting, the more that you realize how much more you have in common. Um, what I'm so blessed with is the relationships that I have being in that environment. There are some amazing, amazing people. Gasper was one of the funniest guys that you could ever even room with, and I was lucky enough to literally share a room with, I think it was Gasper, Jay, and Lindsay. We were all in the same room together, um, and he just had everybody laughing and rolling on the floor, and just a positive experience. My aunt is actually a coda who is a child of a deaf adult, so I learned that Gasper was actually an ASL interpreter who my sister's also an ASL interpreter. And we just started connecting through sign language. And it was like something that you didn't see on the show, but something that, we looked at and we're like, there's so much more to us. We're so dynamic, and looking at Simone was so helpful to me. She actually has two kiddos that at the time, I was 22 at the time. So her youngest was 21, their oldest was 23. And Simone was like, "You're like my kid. Like I see you as one of my own." And that was so helpful because she got me back to ground. Like she level-headed with me. It wasn't like, "Hey, Bryce, you're in a game right now. We're all playing a game, and whether you think you need to vote, that is your choice. But if you feel like you don't need to vote and you want to stay true to your own integrity and say, we're all deserving to be here, then roll with it and be strong and stand in who you are." And I still talk to Simone. She's a huge performance and theater background, just like myself. So it was like
Um,
little tiny details from all the
yeah,
cast members.
it definitely people need to check it out. Greg has a final question he asked all of our celebrity guests. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. So Bryce, it's been awesome getting to chat with you and meet you and learn about your life and what you've accomplished on the trust.
Thank you.
So tell me, Bryce, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Ooh. Well, this year or like my whole life. That's the thing. I feel like we're always learning and
Whole
growing.
life, we're always growing, but there's probably one or two things, that what might those be?
Yeah. Well, my parents instilled in me some really strong values, and one of them being give 100% of your effort 100% of the time. Be authentically true to yourself because no one else can be you. And that's what's so beautiful about, going on these journeys is you're kind of separated from your real life. You're separated from your true reality. So, not relying on a cell phone to be able to say like, "Hey, sister, hey brother, hey honey, like there's something that's going on in my life and I can't make that phone call." And so something that I truly, truly hold dear in my heart is my family and the relationships that I do have. And just really leaning into those as much as possible. Life is short and, it can change on a dime. And you just have to remember the reasons what brought you to where you are now. What is your motivation? I use a journal and I journal every night and I figure out, what are my brains, what's in my brain, what are my thoughts? But always it does come back to family for me. That is my key pillar in my life.
Great, thank you.
It's such an important thing, Greg, for sure. Family. Bryce, people go right now and check out The Trust on Netflix, right?
Yes, it's now streaming on Netflix, The Trust, The Game Agreed.
All right. And also, Bryce, where can we check you out? Where's social media wise?
Absolutely. You can follow me on socials at It's Bryce Lee. Super easy. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, whatever suits your fancy. You can also find me on my website, bryceleere.com.
All right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg